This is Ray Tenenbaum from GreatHires, and I'm next on the
Welcome to RecTech, the Recruiting Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Russell. I'm a consultant who helps job boards and HR tech vendors with strategy, marketing, and product development. The goal of this show is to highlight interesting recruiting technologies as well as talk with recruiters on how they use that to recruit. Today's show will be a vendor edition. But first, we have a new sponsor to our show. The RecTech Podcast is now sponsored by Beyond.com and their popular text-to-hire text messaging campaigns. Text-to-hire is a text recruitment solution that gives you instant mobile access to the candidates you want to reach for high-quality one-on-one conversations. You know, we're all on our phones 99% of the time, so if you have that one tough position you need to fill or just want to break through the clutter and connect with candidates in a unique way, why not reach them on a device that's already right in their hands? Right now, Beyond.com is offering our listeners a 10% discount to their first text-to-hire campaign. To get that, go to beyond.com/rectech to learn more and find out how many people you could reach. All right, Ray Tenenbaum is the founder of GreatHires, a recruiting technology startup offering a mobile-first candidate interviewing experience platform for both candidates and hiring teams. GreatHires was named a top HR product of 2016 by HR Executive Magazine and ranked number 2 in business tools in Entrepreneur Magazine's Brilliant Companies of this year, 2016. I got a chance to meet Ray at this year's HR Tech Conference. Hey, Ray, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a pretty good HR Tech conference this year. I think you got a lot of buzz going around the show with you and your new products. So, first of all, how was the show for you?
It was great. It actually exceeded our expectations. Those things can be a little bit overwhelming with 7,000 people in attendance and so many. It worked out really well, and we were delighted by both the coverage that we've had as well as many of the customers that we got to meet and that we've been following up with since then.
It's definitely one of the more practical tools I've seen lately, and I wrote about this in my recap of HR Tech. But tell us what was the impetus for creating the app and give us more information around its origins and how it got started.
Yeah, sure. Really quickly, just in terms of the personal story of how GreatHires started, a few years ago I was looking for a new opportunity, and I interviewed at one of the well-known tech companies here in Silicon Valley. And the way I got in there was, my initial introduction to them was I was introduced to the head of products at this large organization and met with them for an informational interview. And they said, "Great, we like you. Let's have you come in and come in for talk to some folks for a specific job." So I went back for another interview, and that interview day did not go well. Afterwards, I got a follow-up call from the recruiter saying, "Unfortunately, we're not going to move forward with you." The challenge was during my actual interview day, they never actually told me which job I was interviewing for. And so they were asking me very specific questions about how I would handle specific situations, and I was not well prepared. And the more I learned about the recruiting space, because I don't really come directly from the recruiting space, I come more from the management side of marketing and sales and products. And I realized that this is a kind of a well-established problem, that candidates are not coming to their interviews well prepared with the information they need to have a successful interview day. And that was the impetus for GreatHires of how can you really deliver a wow candidate experience for on-site interviewing.
So tell us how it works. I'm curious, from an employer standpoint, what do they need to do to get started and take us through kind of the user experience of it for them?
Yeah, really simply, there is obviously the setup piece of it of working with a new account, but fundamentally there's 3 levels of it. 4 candidates are able to use our tool and really get the benefit. And so we're all about digitizing and scaling both information and kind of employer branding assets within our system. And so there's information at the company level that gets entered once into the system and can be reused for any job. There's information at the job level that includes things like the job description, directions on how to get to the interview location, and things like that that are managed at the job level. And then there's candidate-specific information like the interview schedule, travel information, etc., specifically customized for a candidate. And once all that information is in the system, and quite frankly, to set up the job and add the candidates probably takes less than 10 minutes to take care of, that's when a candidate gets invited to the tool and can confirm their interview day and learn more about their upcoming interview day. And I can talk about that more in a second.
Okay. Now, you've been involved with the Candies, the Candidate Experience Awards, with Jerry Crispin and stuff, and most companies don't give second thought to the interview experience. So tell us why it's so important that they do.
Yeah, well, if you're familiar with the Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards, in terms of if you've read any of the research reports, there's some real eye-opening data in those research reports that drive a lot of what we do. A couple of pieces of those data are only 38% of candidates receive any information aside from date, time, and location information before they show up for an interview, which is pretty scary these days when you have less than 5% unemployment rate and candidates have lots of opportunities.
Yeah. What was that stat again, Ray?
38% only 38% of candidates receive any information other than date, time, and location before they show up for an interview.
Okay.
The other piece of it is when you ask candidates why they've withdrawn from the process, they weren't treated respectfully during the interviewing process, whether it's constantly being rescheduled, interviewers showing up late, or asking the wrong kinds of questions, or just not being prepared when they show up. And that's also tied with the other number one reason, which is they have another offer. So if you aren't treating candidates really well, and you're not acting quickly, they have other opportunities. And so the candidate experience is really important for when it comes to interviewing.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, so take us through the experience for the candidate itself. So they get, what do they get, an email from the employer from the app?
Yeah, so they receive a notification, usually from the recruiting coordinator or the recruiter, depending on how the interview management is handled at a particular account. And exactly like you said, they get either an email or an SMS notification, both asking them to confirm their attendance for the interview day, as well as giving them access to the tool. So they just click on the link. It's an encrypted link, so they don't even need to use an email or password to access the information. Mm-hmm. And once they access the tool, and it uses the browser of whatever device they have. So we're mobile first and entirely browser-based, so no download is required or anything like that. And within the tool, it provides, once again, the candidate information about the company, information about the job, information about the people that they're going to meet with, including a real-time version of the interview schedule, and in addition, the operational details for their interview day, such as where to show up and how to get there. And then the real killer feature that our clients really love is the ability for the candidate to submit feedback about their experience right at the end of their interview day. And our clients are using that data to make real-time changes and adjustments based on that feedback from candidates.
That's interesting. So what type of, give me an example of how they're using that to tweak their process, Dina?
So I'll give you three really great examples. So one of the questions in the feedback form, Jerry Crispin, the guy who founded the Candidate Experience Awards, he actually helped us design our feedback form. Mm-hmm. And the first question is, was there anything you didn't have to get a chance to share with us that you think we should know in consideration of your candidacy? And we got about 25 to 30% of candidates actually filling out that question. And an example is a couple of weeks ago, one of the candidates said, "Hey, I forgot to mention that I'm bilingual, and and I'd really like to be able to use my language skills for this job." And we had a client who actually that affected their decision on moving forward with the candidate based on that piece of information.
Oh, very cool.
Another couple of other examples is really basic stuff. That one candidate wrote, exactly. I would probably recommend giving directions once you make it to your destination and park. So basic stuff like that on hey, once you park, go to the building on the right and open the green door. Our client immediately added that into the tool to mm-hmm. make sure those instructions were included there. Mm-hmm. And then another example was where another candidate said, "Hey, it would be great if an employee actually described the day-to-day experience of this job while I was there." And so immediately before the next candidate came in, our client made sure that one of the interviewers always told every candidate what the day in the life would be like for this specific job.
Nice.
So those are some examples of where real-time feedback from candidates are really changing both the candidate experience as well as the information that companies are providing to candidates, as well as decisions about candidates.
What have you learned so far? Any surprises in terms of how companies approach interviewing? Do you have any thoughts or takeaways on that?
What I'm amazed is how 1990s technology still, is still basically being used for most of interview management. When people ask us, who's the competitor to GreatHires, I'll mention one or two companies that have, individual features that we have. An ATS may have some features that we have, et cetera, et cetera. But by far, 98% of the companies of our clients that we work with, we are replacing Outlook, email, and Excel as the way they do their interview management.
Nice.
That's what surprises me.
Yeah, interesting. All right, tell us about the company itself, Ray. How big are you? Are you still a tiny little startup? Are you bootstrapped? Are you funded?
So we are funded. We are almost 2.5 years old now. We're about 12 people in the company. We're based in Oakland, California. And, we still behave like a startup, but we are incredibly kind of client and candidate and recruiting coordinator focused. We're all about delighting our end users and making sure we really understand their needs and making it dead simple for them to accomplish what they need to accomplish. We're really much more of the, consumerization of the enterprise software type of platform in terms of the DNA in our company.
And you mentioned recruiting coordinator. Is that your kind of number one customer, so to speak?
Yeah, we actually talk about who our end users are every time we talk to an account. And while we have a great user experience for the entire hiring team, like the hiring manager, the interviewer, the recruiter, et cetera, with the top two end users, we really focus on delighting are the candidate and the recruiting coordinator. And our definition of the recruiting coordinator is the person in charge of interview management, the interview scheduling and information distribution and collection from both the candidate and the hiring team. Those are the top two end users. In fact, a few months ago, I wrote a blog about how the recruiting coordinators are the unsung heroes of talent acquisition. Yeah. And we talk about how they tend to they make a huge amount go right for around the candidate experience, but they tend to only get noticed when things go wrong. And we want to help change that perception by giving them enterprise level tools to really impress not only candidates but their hiring team and get recognized internally for the value they provide.
Very cool. How much does it cost, Ray?
So beyond the initial setup for a company, which can range anywhere from $500 to $1,000, we actually price based on the value that we provide to our clients. So basically, the more they use it, the more value they get out of it. So pricing basically starts at $20 per job, and then each company that we work with, have additional add-on products or services based on their specific needs. But roughly speaking, a good starting point is around $20 per job.
Last question for you. So, Ray, we're living in a time where there's never been more HR technology than there is right now. To many companies, it's kind of overwhelming. What advice do you have for employers out there who are kind of just, overwhelmed with all this new technology? And what can you say to them?
I'd say two things. So I've actually written a few blogs on this particular topic. The first is technology comes last. The first thing you need to do is talk about people. Then you need to talk about process, and then you need to talk about technology. And if you don't get the people and the process right, it doesn't matter what the technology does. We've seen successful implementations, we've seen unsuccessful implementations, and it always starts with either people or process before it even gets to the technology. Our technology can solve many problems, and especially over time, you can add in more features that are and configurations that are specific to clients. But usually, it's either a people or a process challenge that usually gets in the way of things. The other piece of it is if you're actually kind of looking at vendors and you know exactly what your needs are and you got the right alignment within your organization, is you really need to be working with open systems that can integrate together. And while it's great, there are what I would call third-generation ATS tools coming out there, like the Workdays and the GreatHouses and the Levers. They really, whatever system that you do use, you really need to be open because no single system is going to solve everything. And you really need to think of how do all the pieces fit together in an ecosystem that can make things work end-to-end seamlessly and really make the lives of recruiters and coordinators much easier by minimizing kind of the number of screens they need to go to, as well as kind of the data reentry that they need to do. And finding open systems and open platforms that have those ecosystems is really a great starting point.
All right. Well, I appreciate the info, Ray. Thanks for joining me. Where do people go to learn more about GreatHires?
Yeah, that's the way to find us is GreatHires.co. So just to be really clear, our URL is GreatHires.co, not .com. You can always just Google GreatHires. and you can or feel free to email me directly. My email address is ray@greathires.co.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor. Remember to check out beyond.com/RecTech for that special offer of 10% off to their text-to-hire service. Follow me on Twitter @Chris Russell or visit rectechmedia.com. You can find the audio links for this show on our blog. Thanks for listening, everyone.